G'day, I'm Paul. So Porsche has just dropped the new Cayenne, and I thought we'd go through some of the exterior, the interior, and the engine changes, along with pricing for Australia. And the good thing with Porsche is it's now on sale, so you're able to go into your Porsche dealer and start putting your money down if you want to. Now, you can skip ahead to other parts of this video if you do want to, using the time codes on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon as well so you can find out whenever we publish one of these videos. But let's get straight into it. Now, because this is all hot off the press, I'm actually reading most of this from the press release here just so I can go through it all with you. And I've got the iPad here as well so we can have a little look at some of the changes as we run through them. So Cayenne, as a bit of background, is one of Porsche's best-selling models. And the whole reason for that is people want SUVs. They're buying SUVs like crazy. They also want SUVs with a Porsche brand on them. And as a result of that, they sell like hotcakes because you get kind of best of both worlds. And when you do drive them, you really do tell the difference. They do share platforms though, with other vehicles in the Volkswagen group. So it is worth noting that some of these engines and some of the bits and pieces that you see here are shared with other Volkswagen group products, but a lot of this stuff is actually unique to Porsche, which I'll run you through in just a second. So what has changed? We'll start off with the exterior. And look, the Cayenne was never a bad looking car, but I think they have kind of refined it a little bit there and just given it a bit more of a smarter appearance. So you can see there with the headlights, they've changed it a little bit. They've narrowed down. They have a similar design there to the Taycan with those stripes within them. You can also see down the bottom section as well that a lot of that has changed. It has become a bit more resolved and a little cleaner there. Down the side of the car as well, you can see changes here to those side skirts as well. They aren't sort of massive, but there are changes there nevertheless. Something else worth pointing out as well with these headlights is a new digital headlight setup. So we have seen this with other brands such as Mercedes-Benz. They debuted it with the S-Class. Porsche has now gone down the path of doing something similar here, and it's quite interesting. So the way they've described it is a HD matrix LED setup. So that's very impressive stuff, but they go into a bit more detail here in terms of how it works. So 2 high definition modules, and there are 32,000 pixels per headlamp, which is incredible. And to give you an idea of what a pixel is, if you have a laptop or something at home, if you look really close on the screen, you can see those individual pixels that make up that screen. With a new sort of iPad like this, it's a retina display and they're tightly packed. Whereas here with the headlight, you used to have just the pixels that were the actual globes. Now you have effectively 32,000 of those globes per headlamp. So 2 of those across the front of the car there. What they can then do is shut down individual pixels or banks of pixels as you're approaching another vehicle. It means that your car can be in high beam and then it shadows the car in front, and it means that you're not actually blinding anyone as you're following them. The brightness of these modules, according to Porsche, can be regulated in more than 1,000 ways depending on the driving situation. So pretty advanced headlight technology. It says here that it's optional, so it'll probably cost you an arm and a leg to actually get it on the car, but I love the fact that they have offered it and that you can option it if you do need to. Now, I did read with interest as well in terms of wheels. They go all the way up to 22 inches, and that's probably an important thing to note because they've made some changes to the suspension and the way this whole thing works beneath the skin. So you have in the base model steel spring, and with the steel spring you actually have a damper there that has PASM, which is Porsche's active suspension management setup, and it means it's an adaptive damper, and it's a new shock absorber with 2-valve technology, which means there's separate rebound and compression stages that allow optimized performance in all driving conditions. So typically with these cars, I wouldn't go down the path of a steel spring because you're kind of compromising the car's ability to be a performance and comfort car at the same time. But typically Porsches are generally quite comfortable. You can still go down the path of air suspension, and according to Porsche here, you have new adaptive air suspension with 2-chamber, 2-valve technology. So that will be air suspension with an adaptive damping setup in there as well. So in terms of the ride, all the way up to 22-inch alloy wheels, and then the ability to get yourself air suspension as well. Let's have a look at the rear. They've changed the rear here as well. Obviously this debuted with a coupe, and that's going to remain now as well. I'm not a huge fan of the coupe personally, and I know that styling is subjective. I do prefer that sort of standard SUV look, but Coupe has certainly become a much better looking vehicle. So you can see there with those tail lights, kind of adjusted the way that looks. It's a 3D effect now with the tail lights. They've got those 2 stages there as well. You can see there's the bottom one just there, and then the top section right above that as well. And then if we have a look a little closer there, I do love the way that they have the Porsche lettering under there. Big diffuser down the bottom there as well. There are changes to the engine for the Cayenne S that I'll run through in just a second. But outside of that, it's all sort of fairly inoffensive here in terms of the design of the coupe. This is what the standard SUV looks like from the rear. So slightly more resolved. And again, that LED element that runs all the way across the back there, and a slightly less aggressive diffuser there for the entry-level Cayenne. This one obviously has what appears to be optional wheels on it because they look nice and big. But overall, it's actually not a bad looking design at all. Other changes to the lineup exist here with the Turbo GT. So we reviewed this a while back and I was genuinely blown away with how this performed. It is out of this world in terms of its pace, performance, and noise. Huge fan of it. If you do want to check out a review of that, you can click up here. But visually, the changes there, you can see this is far more aggressive down the front there. Same sort of adjusted headlight design there as well. This is a very aggressive looking car. It is only available as a coupe, unfortunately. I would have loved to see the Turbo GT available just in the standard SUV form, but this does look pretty damn aggressive. Have a look at that. Boot lip spoiler just there, and then the Turbo GT badging along the back. I'm not a huge fan of this twin exhaust setup, and let me know in the comments section below, do you prefer a quad exhaust setup? I understand they're trying to sort of mimic the 911 here in terms of that exhaust setup, but to me, I just think the quad setup looks more aggressive and kind of dictates to people that you are driving something pretty impressive there. The rest of this looks great. Optional carbon pack fitted to this car by the look of it, and gold down the side there with those gold wheels too, which I absolutely love the look of. Okay, so let's go to the interior, and I'll twist my iPad around now. This has already been revealed previously, but this gives us a much closer look at what Porsche has done here, and I'm a big fan of this huge step forward for interior, and we'll start off on the right-hand side. So this is an optionally available display that we have seen previously on Taycan. It's a 10.9-inch display. It sits here on the passenger side, has a special coating on it as well, which means the driver isn't able to see it from their side of the car. Look, I love the fact that this is in here, but to be honest, every time I've tested this in something like a Taycan, it's been kind of a pointless feature. You play with it once and then you don't really touch it again because, I don't know, it just seems a bit sort of clumsy to have it there. I do like that they are experimenting with that technology, but you know, it is what it is. Up the top here, not new, but I just love Sport Chrono. I think that if you are buying a Porsche, you have to get Sport Chrono for that stopwatch up the top there. That looks really cool. But the main centerpiece to the infotainment changes are these two screens. So you've got one here and you've also got one here ahead of the driver. Run you through the driver one in just a second, but the one here that is central to the cabin is a 12.3-inch display, and it comes with the car's sort of standard infotainment setup. It's a capacitive touch screen. In there, you're going to find native applications like Spotify and Apple Music. So they're going down the path of Tesla by integrating those apps into the car. So you don't necessarily have to have smartphone mirroring to run everything. It uses an embedded SIM that allows you to listen to Spotify and Apple Music. It's unclear at this stage whether they will give you an account with it, because with Tesla, all you do is click the button that says use Tesla account, and it will allow you to run Spotify without having a Spotify account. And that comes standard with a subscription that you pay $10 a month for. This screen here in the Porsche is generally pretty good. Every time I've used one of these, it actually works pretty well. You can also see a video tab there as well with what looks like the YouTube symbol. Wi-Fi up the top there as well, so you can have a Wi-Fi service in the car for your passengers too. Let's jump over to the screen ahead of the driver, because this is not only familiar, but very cool setup. So this is a 12.6-inch curved display. We have seen this previously on Taycan. That's where they debuted this, and it is such a cool screen. So my understanding is it's an OLED screen in the Taycan, and I think it's going to be OLED here as well. That allows them to do that curved setup, and it just gives it a lot of vibrance and a lot of definition as well. So it's incredibly high definition when you're revving and stuff like that. It doesn't lag like it does in some cars. It is just crisp and quick and accurate. They've also now mounted some of the controls that you regularly access closer to the driver. You'll see over here that they've got the gear stick now there instead of in the center of the cabin. That means you're able to select that without having to take up too much space there in the center of the cabin. Down here, they've got lane departure system integrated there within that stalk. I don't know, every time I've used or driven a Porsche, I know that you'll probably get used to it pretty quickly, but the stalk is sometimes a little bit hard to use. I just think it's easy to have steering wheel buttons, but as you can see here on the Turbo GT model, you kind of just want to reserve that for all the go-fast things, like your sport response button there in the drive mode selector, nice Alcantara or race text trim on the steering wheel there as well. It's worth pointing out as well, there's a new screen down the bottom here for climate controls. They've also retained mechanical switches too. So you can see here with things like your temperature and fan controls, you have those knurled switches there, but there's also a screen that backs onto that. So you can kind of see that that's lit up there, and it gives you a bit of definition with storage down the front there and also at the back there. 12-volt outlet just there. If you've seen our review of the Macan, they hide that under the actual cup holder, so it's nice to see that's actually visible. Now let's talk about some of the engines that you can get, and we'll start off here with the entry-level Cayenne. So with that, for the Australian market, it's going to debut with a new V6 engine. So according to this, the 6-cylinder engine will be the base of the Cayenne range, and it's basically an optimized version of the 3-litre V6 turbo that's currently available. Now it generates 260 kilowatts of power, 500 newton meters of torque, so that's up 10 kilowatts of power and 50 newton meters of torque over the previous generation of Cayenne. When you step up to the Cayenne S, they've ditched the V6 entirely and it now runs on a V8. So that means the V6 is gone. It's now using a 4-litre twin turbocharged V8, makes 349 kilowatts of power and 600 newton meters of torque, 25 kilowatts and 50 newton meters up on its predecessor, and it'll go from 0 to 100 in 4.7 seconds, which is not too bad. There is also an e-hybrid version if you're into that type of thing. So that uses a new electric motor and teams with that 6-cylinder petrol V6. It's now up in terms of the electric motor by 30 kilowatts to 130 kilowatts, and the combined output has increased to 346 kilowatts of power, which is only just short of the Cayenne S, so it gives you an idea of how potent that setup is. The high voltage battery has also increased in size from 17.9 kilowatt hours to 25.9 kilowatt hours. So it's a plug-in hybrid vehicle, which means you can charge it using a power point, and then you can drive it just on EV solely, or if you do run out of battery, it then kicks on the internal combustion engine. You also have different drive modes as well, so you can use the internal combustion engine to charge the battery, or you can hold battery charge. There are a number of different scenarios there. They've also put a new onboard charger, so it's 11 kilowatts, so it's a 3-phase onboard charger, which means it will actually reduce the amount of charging time you have there. Basic maths here, if you're running at 11 kilowatts and it's a 26 kilowatt hour battery, that's going to be about sort of 2.5 hours to charge at that maximum pace. Now the big boy, so Turbo GT, this always gets me excited. Again, twin turbocharged V8. It's increased by 14 kilowatts of power to 485 kilowatts of power, and it now accelerates from 0 to 100 k's an hour in 3.3 seconds. So there's some pretty incredible numbers, and just as a reminder, that Turbo GT, when I mentioned platform sharing and that kind of thing, this vehicle shares an engine with stuff like the RS Q8, Lamborghini Urus. It really is quite a versatile engine they've used across the Volkswagen Group, and here in the Turbo GT, it is just mental in terms of its performance. I remember when we did our 0 to 100 run, when we tested the current generation of that, and it was just out of this world, and the sound was crazy as well, so I'm very excited for that. Now, let's talk pricing for Australia. Of course, as with all Porsche products, there are a number of different option packs you can get. There was even a sports pack here they mentioned that's able to reduce the weight of the vehicle by over 30 kilos. So I think it shows you there that they are really sort of focused on improving the weight of these and also improving the performance as well. The range is going to kick off in Australia from $140,200. So it is a step up in price. The coupe is an extra $8,000 on top of that. If you go to the e-hybrid, which is the next step up from the Cayenne, that's 155 grand, so about 15 grand more than the base car. And again, extra money for the coupe. Going to a turbo V8 is going to set you back $181,000, an extra 10 grand for the coupe. And then if you go to the top of the range Turbo GT, which is coupe only, that is going to cost you $366,000. So let me know what you reckon about the design of the new Cayenne. I know that it's not a brand new platform, but the changes they've made here really do refine this as quite a premium proposition that really will deliver the goods in terms of performance, and I'm very excited to have a drive. So let me know in the comments section below, what do you think about the pricing, some of the features they've launched with? Do you think it was enough of a change? I'm keen for your feedback. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure you share it with your mates, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.